We are joined now by a Ross County native, but he's in Texas for a long time now, and he was on the big stage here this past weekend riding horses. Details coming up in just a moment right after this.
I was looking for a first job. I had been babysitting and decided it was something for a little more permanent. It pays very well. It's convenient. You can make your own schedule with the flexibility. That's something that I like. The people that I work with are great. I wouldn't ask for a better crew or management team to work for.
Happy to have Casey Hinton with us. And the Hinton name has been known around these parts for football all these years, but this one got away, and he's riding horses. Speaking with Casey Hinton, and out in Texas now, and you've been out there since 1999, but people back home, they still remember who you are. And you had a big weekend this past weekend, didn't you?
Yes, sir. It was quite an event and quite a thrilling competition. And you never forget where you come from, though.
Yeah. And your love for horses was developed here in Ross County, wasn't it?
That's correct. You know, as a youngster, my grandfather and everybody, you know, they were the ones that farmed with horses. So the horse interest was in our family, and my dad and we always had horses. And so you get started with 4-H in Ross County, and then you work your way up and you love it. So we're very fortunate to advance up to where something with that kind of a passion you're making a living with. And it's hard to call it a job sometimes.
Yeah, very true. Now, let's talk about this competition you were in. First of all, this is something you did last year as well, and placed 8th, if I remember correctly, and you tied for 7th this year.
You know, this competition, there's only 16 individuals that get to compete in, and there's 2 different ways to qualify. I've qualified twice. This was my second time with the same horse, and I qualified in Scottsdale, Arizona in March. This horse show, it's kind of a real thrilling event where it's 16 one horse, one rider, all in, go for broke kind of a competition, and it's a worldwide event. Reining is so popular everywhere, but a lot of the people throughout the world have moved to areas to train reining horses over here in the U.S. And there was a horse that was shipped over from Europe to compete in it as well. But it's put on by Taylor Sheridan and the Yellowstone group. And this is like the 5th year they've done that competition. And it's quite an exhibition, and it is a sellout. The tickets sell out in about 15 minutes. And so it's the loudest and one of the most exciting competitions we do.
For folks who have maybe you've heard about it, it's the Run for the Million, and there's $1 million on the line, and man, you've come close. And I'm sure you'd like to be really close, but still, you came away with a nice paycheck.
Yes, sir. And the gentleman that won this year lives about 5 miles from us, and so he's in Texas as well. But that reining does pay out $1 million. It's 500 for the first, and then it goes down to second all the way through 10th place. And so there is a good paycheck there. But it's just anything you have a passion for like that, it's the ultimate. It's a worldwide spectacle event. And I'm fortunate that I'm still staying competitive in that kind of caliber. So I'm going to try to qualify again for the next year.
Those of you listening on Litter Media Radio, we're talking to Casey Hinton. He's way out in Texas now, but a Ross County native, and you've been training horses for, gosh, most of your life, haven't you?
Yes, sir. After I graduated from Zane Trace, I went to Findlay College in Ohio, and they had an equestrian program there and also a business degree there. And while I was there, I started as an assistant trainer for a very well-known famous trainer. He ended up moving to Arizona. I moved with, and so you learn to be assistants, like assistant football coaches, to learn a trade and work your way up and to be the head coach. And so in 1985, I started my own business. So for 40 years, I've had my own training business. And hard to imagine just starting out from a 4-H project all the way to world events like this is pretty amazing.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, to be one of 16 riders invited to participate in this, that's pretty elite right there.
Yes, sir. It's
Explain for us, if you would, what reining is for those who have not been around the competitive riding for horses.
Reining is really, it's very, very popular worldwide now. And reining is derived from old working kind of horses where they had to stop and redirect and go a different direction and then stop quick, or you know uh, uh, roll back and do different things. So reining has turned into a very precise, precision, high speed event. And the more the high the speed, the more the risk. And you get judged on, like, there's 3 different segments to it, which is circling, and so how well you control your guiding. And there is a speed control, really fast to really slow. And then there is spinning, where most all patterns have 4 spins. This one had 4 spins and then 4 1/4. So you face the judges. Um, so you get judged on precision of their footwork and how crisp they are and how willing they are to spin. So the horse I showed, he spins very fast. And that's one of the things he does. And then the trademark maneuver is when they run and they put the brakes on and they slide. So it'd be a little bit like the kids the first day that it snows, and they go home from school and they take off on the sidewalk and they slide across the sidewalk. And then the next kid says, I'm going to go faster, slide further than you. And so it's kind of a little bit like that kind of thing, but you train your horses to do it.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very entertaining for spectator wise. It's there was that particular event too. It's you can really feel the adrenaline there.
I can try and imagine placing myself in the spectator category of watching this. It sounds as though it's very magical in some respects, but also the grace of the animal and its expertise really in how you've trained it to perform that way.
That's correct. It's kind of like your dance partner, and you got to have a good dance partner if you're going to compete at that. And those horses, that compete at that level, there's few of them, so they're such a rarity. They do things that looks like effortlessly, but they're just they're phenomenal animals.
I know this past week I've been watching on Facebook, a number of people have been from back here in home saying, hey, Casey Hinton's going to be doing this week. You got to check it out, and showing it online and everything. That's got to feel pretty good to have that kind of support from back home. But you also had some people from here head out to Arizona for this particular competition.
Yeah, actually, there was quite a few from Ross County there that came out to watch, and it's pretty cool to have that support, and that's some of them. My sisters both came, and their families came, and other friends came. So it was a large group of us. I think we went to dinner afterwards, and there was like 15 of us. So it's a pretty good group, and to have that support. But you know, they had never seen anything quite like that, and it just is. It's pretty amazing.
And as a competitor as yourself, I mean, do you have to say, "Hey, the dinner's got to stop at a certain time because I'm in training here. I, I gotta perform tomorrow."
Yeah. That show is, we don't have as many horses. It has a really good schedule. So you get a little bit of time that, but you still are, you still do your regiment. and you still do your recipe, and you still rest at certain times, you practice at certain times. So you stay very disciplined to that. Just like any football coach Hinton would do, you got to stay to your discipline, you know.
And I wanted to reach out to you last week, but I got tied up in doing other things. And I thought to myself, I don't know what his schedule is. I don't want to, interfere with anything. I'll wait till the competition's done. And I certainly appreciate you making yourself available to us to talk about this.
You
You
bet.
plan to compete again next year, right?
That would be the plan. I think this horse, he has quite a lot of horse show left in it. And like I said, it takes a very special dance partner to compete at that level. And there's very few of them that have so many of those special traits like that. And so, it's a very difficult thing to make happen repeatedly the same exact way because it's very high speed. So it's different each time you show, and different ground and different patterns and different scenarios. So repeating is maybe sometimes harder than the first time. Repeating for a conference championship, but planning on going back to try to qualify in March, back in Arizona again. And like I said, Taylor Sheridan has done such a phenomenal job in supporting the Western heritage. And they had a cutting one night, and they had a working cow horse one night, and then they had the reining on the Saturday night. And you've seen a lot of those types of horses on the show Yellowstone. But he has such a passion for preserving and making the horse the stars at that competition. And he's taken us in some great directions to get our sport with a lot of popularity.
And forgive me, I need to have you tell me a little bit more about your partner, because the horses is half the show here. Does a lot of the work to it. What's your horse's name, and give us a little more information about the breed and how long you've had this horse together.
Okay, like the horse that I showed, his name is Magnum's Custom Dream, and his barn name is Rocky. And he's 7 years old, and I got him towards the latter part of his 3-year-old year. A good friend of mine in Colorado, Devin Warren, he raised him and trained him to that point. So I've shown him for the last 3 or 4 years. This would be his last in our competition. The futurity year is for 3, the 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old is Derby. So he's going to age out of that for next year. Doesn't mean that he can't compete in that competition there, because it's an all age class. But in some of the Derby stuff, which has a lot of the money earning potential a horse has, he's going to not be eligible for. He's by a horse named Magnum Chick Dream. And Kathy and we stood Magnum Chick Dream, his father, for 25 years. I got to show Magnum Chick Dream, his father, when he was younger, and I won a world title on him in 2004, I think it was. And so then I won a world title. We got to stand him. His offspring, he is like number 4 all time in the reining world for his offspring's winnings, which is around $12 million.
Oh.
And so he's a very famous sire. Rocky is going to get his chance to be a sire coming up starting next year. And he's going to be promoted in the breeding barn situation. He's bay with a big white face. He's a very serious horse. Like if he stands there, some horses are more pet friendly, whatever. He'll stand there and never move. Like he's a very serious horse. Very feely, doesn't take a lot of scolding. If you do, he's going to give you more than, like that. So he's a horse that, he's kind of unique. He's got really fast feet. He can turn fast. He's got lots of stop, and he's got a cool look to him. So having a horse that we stood his father, and now we're going to stand this one, is a real unique situation in our world. So he's a very unique horse. I hope I can find another one as unique as that. I'd like to keep on showing for sure.
And they all have such a wonderful personality. And like you've described here, uh, it sounds like it's a tough one to find. So uh, when you have some success with them, you want to keep them going. And what a great lineage that he comes from.
Yeah, absolutely.
I,
I'm very
I,
fortunate.
I know you're very familiar with Tecumseh, the outdoor drama out here, and talking with Brandon Smith, who is the producer and CEO for uh, Scioto Society, explains that these horses that are used, they probably know their lines and their positions on the stage better than the actors do. And I have a feeling that that might be the same with what you do with some of your training.
Somewhat. The thing about in ours, it has such a high speed. Sometimes you don't want to get them to where they know it too much, and then they start thinking for you and making the choices for you.
Mhm.
You still want them to wait until they're told and stuff like that. Those horses at Tecumseh, they're pretty amazing.
Yeah.
They're pretty amazing.
Many of those horse animals are, no question about that.
Yes,
Well, Casey, I appreciate your time today, and congratulations again on a seventh place finish in the Run for the Million. And if you want to learn more about it, we'll have some information in the post that we put with this, so people can follow along and go back and see what you did do. So congratulations again, and perhaps we'll have another chat come next year as you get ready for 2025.
that would be awesome. It would be awesome.